Welcome to the dairies of science fiction, where extraordinary stories come to life. Enjoy the journey. The cold had a way of inserting itself into thought. It slipped between ideas, slowed reactions, and made even pride feel brittle. She walked anyway, because stopping would mean acknowledging it, and acknowledging it would mean failure. Her boots struck the frozen ground in a measured rhythm, precise enough to suggest control, though the tremor in her long ears betrayed her to anyone paying attention. She told herself that the wind was louder than it truly was, that the ache along her spine was nothing more than an echo of fatigue, and that her people had endured worse than this planet's sulking climate. The planet, for its part, seemed unimpressed by her resolve. Behind her, a cluster of survey beacons flickered with stubborn inconsistency. The technology was advanced, elegant even, but the cold had opinions about elegance. One beacon emitted a whine that sounded suspiciously like laughter. She glared at it, as if offended machinery could feel shame, and continued forward, chin lifted, posture flawless, shivering carefully contained to muscles she pretended not to notice. She did not hear the human at first. Humans were remarkably quiet when they were lost, which, statistically speaking, they often were. He appeared slightly to her left, boots crunching too loudly, breath fogging in an enthusiastic cloud. He stopped short when he noticed her, clearly debating whether this was a hallucination brought on by hypothermia, or an actual alien woman walking through the cold like it was a personal insult. "Oh," he said finally, intelligent as ever, "you're real." She slowed, then turned, one eyebrow lifting in a way that communicated several things at once, including skepticism and the possibility of violence. That assessment required effort. He smiled because humans tended to smile when nervous and also when foolish. A surprising amount. This planet messes with sensors, and morale, mostly morale. She studied him in silence. His suit was functional but mismatched, as if assembled from spare parts and optimism. Heat indicators glowed faintly along its seams, struggling but persistent. He looked cold too, she noted with a flicker of irritation, as though the universe had decided fairness was suddenly fashionable. "You are far from your designated path," she said. "I get that a lot," he replied, "usually from people holding weapons." Her gaze dipped, confirmed he held none, then returned to his face. "Then you are fortunate." "I try to be," he said, then paused, frowning slightly. "You're shivering." "I am not." "Your ears are." She stiffened. The wind chose that moment to cut sharper, slicing through the thermal field she maintained with increasing effort. The beacons behind her sputtered again. One of them died with a soft pop, as if giving up on life entirely. "Your observation is unnecessary," she said, "and incorrect." "Right," he said quickly. "Sorry. I mean my species shivers all the time. It's sort of our thing, emotional. We shiver. Cold, we shiver. Awkward silence." He gestured between them, definitely shivering. Despite herself, something twitched at the corner of her mouth. She crushed it immediately. Humor was inefficient. Humor led to distraction. Distraction led to mistakes, and mistakes froze to death on planets like this. "You should return to your shelter," she said. "This environment is not suitable for extended exposure." He glanced behind him at the endless white stretch he had come from. "Yeah, about that. I sort of overshot it, or undershot it. Hard to tell when everything looks like frozen disappointment." She exhaled slowly. Of all the variables this mission required, babysitting a human was not one of them. Still, protocol demanded acknowledgement of sentient life in distress, even if that life had wandered off with alarming confidence. "Follow," she said. He brightened immediately. "Great. I mean, thank you. Also, your ears are really impressive." "Sorry, that sounded better in my head." "Speak less," she replied. "I can't promise miracles." They walked in uneasy parallel, the silence punctuated by the wind and the occasional muttered comment from him about planetary design flaws. The cold pressed harder, testing limits. She felt it seep past her defenses, threading through muscle and thought, and hated that he noticed, hated even more that he slowed his pace to match hers without saying anything. After several minutes, he cleared his throat. You know, this is going to sound strange, considering the circumstances, but you look colder than I feel. I am adapted, she said, though the words lacked their usual certainty. Adapted doesn't mean immune, he said. Trust me, humans have tried. He stopped walking, fingers moving to the clasp at his shoulder. Before she could object, he shrugged out of his jacket, the heat signature flaring briefly in protest. What are you doing? She demanded. Something reckless, he said cheerfully, which, statistically, works out for us about 50% of the time. He held the jacket out toward her, steam curling faintly from its inner lining. Here. She stared at it as if it were a puzzle designed to insult her intelligence. That is unnecessary. Probably, he agreed, but it helps, and I have layers, emotional and otherwise. This is inappropriate, she said. You do not understand. Fair, he said. I rarely do, but you're freezing and I don't like watching people freeze. Cultural implications aside. The wind surged again, and this time she did not entirely suppress the shiver. Her ears trembled openly now, the betrayal undeniable. He raised an eyebrow. I'll pretend I didn't win that argument. For a long moment, neither moved. Then slowly she reached out and took the jacket. The warmth hit her immediately, unfamiliar and startling, not just heat but something else, something oddly personal. She slipped it around her shoulders, the fabric heavy with his presence, and felt her breath catch before she could stop it. This changes nothing, she said too quickly. Of course not, he replied. It's just a jacket. Humans hand them out like peace treaties. She looked at him then, really looked. And for the first time since landing on this planet, the cold loosened its grip, just enough to let something else take its place. She adjusted the jacket once, then told herself not to do it again. Adjusting implied comfort. Comfort implied dependence. Dependence was a weakness, and weakness had a long memory on worlds like this. Still, the warmth crept in stubbornly, settling against her skin with an intimacy that felt faintly offensive. Her body reacted before her discipline could intervene, muscles loosening, breath deepening, neural regulators recalibrating with soft internal clicks that she pretended not to notice. The human watched her with the exaggerated care of someone trying very hard not to look like they were watching. His arms were crossed now, shoulders hunched, jaw tight in a way that suggested he was colder than he wanted to admit. She told herself she did not care. She told herself many things. You will experience heat loss, she said, because stating the obvious was safer than acknowledging the unfamiliar pulse in her chest. I'm aware, he replied, teeth chattering just enough to ruin his attempt at casual. But on the bright side, if I freeze solid, I'll finally stop making bad decisions. That outcome is not desirable, she said. He blinked. Is that concern? It is efficiency, she corrected. Your survival increases the probability of mission success. Ah, he said, romantic. They resumed walking. The path ahead shimmered faintly as her navigation implant projected a stable route through shifting ice fields. His suit pinged occasionally, arguing with the planet's magnetic anomalies in a series of annoyed chirps. Your tech sounds unhappy, she observed. It's very emotional, he said. I think it resents being brought here. It signed up for orbital work. Her lips pressed together. Machines do not resent. You haven't met ours, he said. Half of them run on spite. She almost smiled again. Almost. The jacket continued to radiate warmth, and with it came something else, subtle but persistent. Her species possessed neural empathy receptors, a trait usually dormant unless proximity thresholds were crossed under specific conditions. Cold stress, shared thermal fields, biological contrast. She had studied the theory. She had not expected practice to feel like this. A faint awareness of him, not thoughts, not emotions exactly, but a presence like standing near a charged field. She slowed unconsciously. You okay? He asked. Yes, she said immediately, too immediately. Her implant pulsed a warning. She ignored it. They reached a ridge where the ground leveled briefly, the storm thinning just enough to reveal distant lights. A human shelter, modular and inelegant, crouched against the ice like it had given up on dignity hours ago. "There," he said, relief evident. "Home sweet temporary disaster." She stopped. The jacket felt heavier now, as if aware of the moment. Returning it would be correct, necessary. She did not move. "You should take it back," she said. "Later," he replied. "You still look—" He stopped himself, then grinned. "Less not cold." "That is not a condition." "It is for humans," he said. "We measure everything on a scale from fine to definitely dying. You're hovering in the middle." She considered him, this strange, loud, unexpectedly kind creature who had crossed species protocol with fabric and humor. The empathy receptors flared again, stronger this time, reacting to proximity and shared environment. Her internal systems flagged the sensation as anomalous. "You are altering my perception," she said quietly. He stiffened. "That sounds bad." "It is unexpected. I get that reaction a lot too," he said gently. "Usually after I talk." They stood there, the storm pressing in again, the shelter lights flickering. Her people believed bonds were forged through trials, through pain and endurance. She had never imagined one could begin with a jacket and a joke. "Come," she said. "You will recover heat inside." "And you?" he asked. She hesitated, then followed him. Inside, the shelter sealed with a hiss, warmth flooding the small space. His biomonitor beeped happily, celebrating survival like it had earned a medal. She removed the jacket slowly, reluctantly, and handed it back. The absence was immediate, sharp. Her receptors dimmed, then protested. "Thank you," she said, the words unfamiliar on her tongue. He smiled, softer this time. "Any time." The planet howled outside, indifferent as ever, but something had shifted. Not the weather, not the mission. Something quieter, more dangerous. She felt it settle into place and knew, with a clarity that unsettled her more than the cold ever had, that this moment would not fade. The shelter hummed as if it were thinking very hard about continuing to exist. Panels flickered between stable green and mildly offended orange, while the heater produced a sound that suggested it was negotiating its contract. She stood near the wall, arms folded, pretending not to notice how the warmth felt different now, less startling, more familiar. Familiar was dangerous. Familiar invited attachment. She had built an entire life around not inviting things. The human, meanwhile, was busy arguing with a console. "No, you can't reroute power from life support," he muttered. "That's not a suggestion, that's a rule." "Yes, I know you think you're smarter than me." She watched him for a moment before speaking. "You are aware it cannot hear you." He glanced over his shoulder. "I know, but it listens better when I'm stern." "That is illogical." "So am I," he said. "We've bonded." Despite herself, she felt a soft pulse of amusement ripple through her. Her neural empathy receptors responded, lighting up in quiet agreement, and she stiffened at the realization. The reaction was still there, even without the jacket, muted but persistent. It had not been a fluke. It had not faded. Her implant chimed, bringing with it a cascade of delayed alerts. The beacons, the survey, the reason she was here. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with renewed focus. "My mission is compromised," she said. He turned fully this time. "How bad?" "The thermal pylons are failing. Without them, the data integrity will collapse, and the Council will classify the planet as unstable. And that's bad because instability invites intervention," she said, "and intervention invites force." He grimaced. "Ah, the galaxy's favorite hobby." She nodded once. "I must repair the network." "Outside?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "Yes." He looked at the door, then back at her, then down at his jacket folded neatly on a crate. "You're not going alone." "That is unnecessary." He smiled. So was the jacket. She hesitated. The old version of herself would have refused, citing protocol, risk, efficiency. That version felt distant now, like a memory viewed through ice. "Very well," she said, "but you will follow my lead." "Story of my life," he said, grabbing his helmet. Outside, the storm had softened but not surrendered. They moved together this time, not in parallel but in rhythm, her guidance precise, his commentary frequent and mostly unhelpful. At one point he slipped on a patch of ice and announced, "If I die, tell my commander it was gravity's fault." She caught his arm before he fell, her grip stronger than he expected. "Noted," she said, "but you will not die." "Wow," he said, "confidence, I like it." They reached the final beacon as the wind surged again. The device was dark, silent, stubborn. She knelt, fingers moving with practiced speed, bypassing frozen circuits, rerouting energy through her implant. The cold pressed in, sharper now, testing her limits. "You're shaking," he said. "I am functional." He didn't argue. He simply shrugged out of his jacket again and draped it over her shoulders, this time without ceremony, without jokes. The warmth returned, stronger than before, and with it the full resonance of her empathy receptors. This time she didn't fight it. She let it flow, let herself feel the quiet steadiness beneath his humor, the stubborn kindness that had brought him here. The beacon flared to life. The network stabilized. Her implant chimed in approval. "It's done," she said, breathless. He grinned. "See, 50% success rate." They returned to the shelter slowly. Inside, she removed the jacket again, but this time the absence didn't sting. Something had shifted, settled into a new shape. She turned to him, long ears lifting slightly, no longer betraying weakness but something else entirely. "My people believe bonds are forged through endurance," she said. "I believe that too. And now I believe endurance can be shared," she said. "That strength can be offered." He swallowed. "So what happens next?" "The council will arrive," she said. "They will see stability, they will leave." "And you?" She considered the question. The mission was complete. The planet no longer hostile, merely cold. She was no longer unchanged. "I will report," she said. "But I will also remember." He smiled, softer than before. "I'm good at being remembered." She stepped closer, closing the space between them, and for the first time she allowed herself to smile fully. "So am I." Outside, the storm finally broke, leaving the planet quiet, its fate altered not by force, but by warmth freely given.